Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Second best movie of the Star Wars franchise, or second worst movie of the Star Wars franchise? Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the movie that started it all. The movie that would spark 40 years of a money-making machine. The movie that would make children dream of space and the Force. The movie that would make George Lucas inevitably go insane. The movie that would make an entire religion. I'm not even joking about that one. Look it up. There's a Jedi religion now. I'm not joking. That's Star Wars for you. It's Star Wars! The original Star Wars, with, I guess, the later added subtitle of A New Hope, but who cares anyways? If you've existed for any amount of time for the past 40 years, you know of this very movie and its franchise. Many hail this movie as the peak of cinema. The best story ever told. Just the absolute best, nothing will ever beat it ever. And who can blame them? There's action, romance, humor, space, epic lightsaber fights, and explosions. But today, let us take off our rose-colored glasses. Let us see this movie for what it really is. Let us see the truth behind our Star Wars facades. It's the worst ever. It's bad. Let's start the video now, please. So the movie begins with... reading. Of course, a text scroll, because when I go to the theater to watch a movie, the first thing I want to do is read. I waddle down on my seat with my oversized popcorn and my oversized Coke, and I lean over to my oversized mom, and I'm like, hey, let's read. And then this pops up in the scene in like 1970-something, where I'm like, yeah, I want to read, and it's like, whoa. This is the best movie ever. It's simple, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, this text scroll pretty much explains the events immediately prior to the movie. But, you know, you gotta think. Who's the rebels? Who's the Galactic Empire? I thought this was Star Wars, not ancient Rome. And why does the Empire want to destroy planets? For what reason do they want to do that? To be fair, this was the very first Star Wars movie to have ever come out, so they need to establish some sort of exposition so the movie makes sense. But you know, George Lucas, in about 30 years you'll make an entire prequel trilogy, and almost 10 years after that, someone will make a movie explaining this entire text scroll. Have a little bit of foresight. So after reading for a bit, the camera pans down to a galactic battle, and inside one of the two ships fighting, we are greeted to the awe-so-famous C-3PO and R2-D2. All the while, some dudes in space uniforms called stormtroopers shoot and miss at some dudes in generic uniforms called the rebels. So this guy, Darth Vader, walks into the hallway, does a sassy stance and is like, not again, and then continues to march on down the hallway. Naturally, R2 gets diddled by this lady dressed in white who is Princess Leia, and C-3PO is like, R2-D2, where are you? Of course, R2 just starts walking away like a piece of garbage. Then there's this cutaway shot of Leia pulling away her hood as if the hood was really doing any good of concealing her identity at all. Then Darth Vader asserts his dominance over one of the rebels and orders the troopers to find the plans to the Death Star. R2, still not explaining his plan, gets into an escape pod and C-3PO is like, nah, and then gets shot up and he's like, well, okay then, I'ma regret this. Silly robot. Regret isn't in your code. The movie cuts to Leia having a one-on-one with Darth Vader, and he questions her about the plans to the Death Star, but she plays dumb because she's a part of the quote-unquote Imperial Senate. Whatever the heck that means.
You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away!
Well, geez, Vader, way to jump to conclusions. I mean, come on down. You just met the girl. In the midst of Vader's anger, the commander next to him tells him that holding her hostage is a bad idea and that she won't say anything about the plans or the rebel base anyways. And Vader's like,
no, she's my only hope.
So another commander tells Vader about the escape pod that R2 and C-3PO are on and assumes that the plans are on that pod. So he sends troopers to go track it down. You know, I'm 10 minutes in this movie and I still haven't seen one lightsaber fight and I'm kind of mad about it. Anyways, I guess... C-3PO and R2-D2 crash land on this planet called Tatooine, where they are both captured by these guys called Jawa traders. But before they get captured, they argue about which direction to take. Now, someone please tell me why you would take 5 minutes out of this movie to have C-3PO and R2-D2 argue about where to go, have me watch them go separate directions, just so they would get captured and end up in the same place. I know it's like 5-ish, 7-ish minutes, but you could have cut out like 3 minutes of that if they just went the same direction and then got captured. After about 20 minutes of building this plot with these droids, Leia, and Vader, we are finally introduced to our main character, Luke Skywalker. He's accompanied by his uncle, who rudely criticizes C-3PO and how he has no need for him, but stands there anyways and interrupts C-3PO while he tries to explain himself.
I suppose you're programmed for etiquette and protocol.
Protocol? Why, it's my primary function, sir. I am well versed in all the customs.
I have no need for a protocol droid.
All around me are familiar faces.
Holy crap, dude, just let him talk, it's not that hard! Luke's uncle then orders him to clean up the droids before dinner, and Luke's all like,
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
You can waste time with your friends when your chores are done. Now, come on, get to it.
Sir, I think Luke said power converters, not friends. But you know, you weren't listening to the droid, so maybe you weren't listening to Luke. And to be fair, Luke does sound like a whiny piece of garbage.
Power converters!
Yeah, maybe it was better that you weren't listening to him.
It just isn't fair. Oh, Biggs is right. I'm never gonna get out of here.
Yep, you're just as whiny as I thought you were. Hey, Luke's uncle, I feel you now. I'd be rude too if I lived with this. Anyway, while Luke's cleaning R2, he discovers a looping hologram of Leia asking a man named Obi-Wan Kenobi for help. Luke then creepily stares at the hologram and questions the droid about it.
Who is she? She's beautiful.
You might not want to know the answer to that question if I know anything about the Star Wars universe, Luke. You just slow your roll there. He's called up for dinner, and when he brings up Obi-Wan Kenobi, it gets super awkward at the dinner table for some reason, and it's never mentioned. It's never mentioned why it gets so awkward. His uncle tells him to erase the droid's memory and to forget about Obi-Wan.
But what if this Obi-Wan comes looking for him?
He won't. I don't think he exists anymore. He died about the same time as your father.
He knew my father?
I told you to forget it.
Alright, first you stand there next to the droid just to criticize it for not being the type of droid you want. Second, you sit there with your smug look, you mention the boy's father, and when he asks you about it, you shut him down immediately. I mean, if you're gonna bring up the boy's father, you might as well just follow through and tell him what he wants to know. After the whole father thing, Luke whines about living there some more, and of course his jerk of an uncle is like, nah, you stay here, nephew slave boy.
Luke's just not a farmer, Owen. He has too much of his father in him.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Oh, and why is that, Uncle Owen? What's wrong with Luke's father? Oh, you're not gonna tell me what's wrong with his father. Fine, Luke stare off into the setting suns like a dramatic teenager. It's fine. I mean, what's wrong with Luke's father that you can't tell Luke about him? R2-D2 runs away, and the next day, Luke and C-3PO go looking for him. Long story short, they meet up with this hermit that is Old Ben.
He claims to be the property of an Obi-Wan Kenobi. Is he a relative of yours? Do you know who he's talking about?
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I think my uncle knows him. He said he was dead.
Oh, he's not dead. Not yet.
Well, you know him.
Well, of course I know him. He's me.
As if that was a surprise! How incompetent must Luke be to not know that Old Ben is Obi-Wan? It's really not that different of a name. You know, so far, the only character that I don't hate is Obi-Wan/Old Ben, and that's because I barely heard him open his mouth. Although, he did change his name to Old Ben, hoping that that would protect his identity. So I might end up hating him too. I also really haven't seen enough of Vader or Leia to really know if I hate them or not. I guess we'll find out soon. Obi-Wan takes Luke to his place and they finally discuss his father. Apparently, Luke's father was a Jedi Knight who fought in the Clone Wars alongside this Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan also confirms that there is literally nothing wrong with Luke's father. Luke's uncle just disagreed with him. So he's just being a jerk towards Luke for no reason. At all. There's no reason for it. I'm done. How much of a jerk you gotta be? Anyways, Obi-Wan then shows Luke his father's lightsaber. While Luke stares at it in awe, Obi-Wan talks about the Jedi and their fall.
For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic. Before the Dark Times. Before the Empire.
How did my father die?
Hold on, Luke. This man's talking about him mourning over the fall, the whole Jedi Knight thing, and you're just gonna change the subject? I mean, I know you're interested in all, but just give the man a hot second. We learned that Darth Vader was a Jedi Knight who turned to the dark side of the Force and betrayed and killed Luke's father. Upon mention of the Force, Luke asks Obi-Wan what the Force is.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together.
Now R2-D2, listen, you gotta learn your manners, alright? These two were having a conversation, and it was a very important conversation, and...
Where you come from?
I saw part of the message.
I seem to have found it.
General Kenobi, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. I have placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion into the memory systems of this R2 unit. My father will know how to retrieve it. You must see this droid safely delivered to him on Alderaan. This is our most desperate hour. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
All right, yeah, okay. That was pretty okay for you to interrupt us there. That was really important information. Obi-Wan asks Luke to go to Alderaan with him, and Luke's like, no, I gotta stay, you know? Luke, make up your mind. First you want to leave Tatooine, and the next minute you don't. And now you do. It's just confusing. The movie cuts back to the Empire as they discuss the Rebel Alliance and if they will fail to stop the Empire from creating and using the Death Star. One very confident officer mentions how it would be useless for the rebels to attack the Death Star. Darth Vader begins to put this officer in his place by saying the Force rivals that of the Death Star. The officer tries to argue that the Force hasn't helped Vader accomplish anything, and then Vader begins to Force choke him. Remember when I said I haven't seen enough of Vader or Leia to know if I hate them? Yeah, I really like Vader. He's using some good scare tactics right there. I like it. Better than power converters, I can tell you that much. The movie cuts back to Obi-Wan and Luke as they stumble upon some dead Jawas. The same Jawas that sold Luke and his uncle the droids. Obi-Wan explains that it was the stormtroopers who raided and murdered the Jawas.
If they traced the robots here, they may have learned who they sold them to, and that would lead them back home.
Oh, wait, Luke! It's too dangerous!
Ah, yes, very concerned, Obi-Wan, as you stand there and do nothing! Oh my! They're just gonna show his uncle and aunt burned to death right there. That's some charred bodies. Yeah, that's fine, I guess. George Lucas, you alright there, buddy? I mean, you're just gonna show some charred bodies to the whole world to see that, and that's okay? So here's this beautiful dramatic scene where Luke stands there with his hair waving in the wind, and the movie just cuts to Darth Vader literally saying one line to Leia.
And now, Your Highness, we will discuss the location of your hidden rebel base.
That's it! Why couldn't they just put that scene with the previous Empire scene so that Luke does the dramatic thing and it automatically cuts to us seeing him go back to Obi-Wan? It just breaks the dramatic tension we were feeling there. After seeing his uncle and aunt murdered, Luke decides to go to Alderaan with Obi-Wan and learn about the Force and become a Jedi Knight. In light of this, Obi-Wan then takes Luke to Mos Eisley to find a spaceship and a pilot to fly them to Alderaan. Which I'm not sure makes too much sense, because Obi-Wan literally noted Luke's increasing skill in piloting in a previous scene.
I understand you've become quite a good pilot yourself.
I guess they just retconned that within 10 minutes, but okay. After doing some Jedi mind tricks, the two go to the bar where the people act prejudiced towards Luke and his droids.
He doesn't like you.
I'm sorry.
I don't like you either.
I don't like him either. He sucks. I don't even know. You know, we're 50 minutes into this movie, and the first time we get to see a lightsaber in action, it's in this pointless scene. And everyone just kind of, you know, goes back to what they're doing, just like, yeah, whatever, who cares? This happens all the time. You ever been to Mos Eisley before? People just cut their hands off, left and right. They finally meet Han Solo, who is accompanied by his haired friend, Chewbacca. Han Solo is the pilot of the Millennium Falcon, which is apparently a really fast ship. And he's really cocky about it, too. Obi-Wan is just like, what's the Millennium Falcon? And then Han spits out something about parsecs or something, I don't know. Anyways, Han asks for this ridiculous price, and Luke brings up the fact that he's a pilot. And this is the first time where I agree with Luke. Why can't he fly some ship? Why do we have to get a guy who carries his entire personality in his hair, half-button shirt, and stupid half-smile? So, after cutting a deal with Han, Obi-Wan and Luke leave, and we find out that Han named this ridiculous price because he owes money to some guy named Jabba the Hutt. Han kills this green anteater thing and leaves. And just like when Obi-Wan cut off someone's hand, everyone in the bar is just like, okay. Just happens every day! Meanwhile, at the Death Star, General Tarkin tells this guy to set the Death Star to fire at Alderaan to persuade Leia into telling him the location of the rebel base. And just like that, back at Mos Eisley we are. Luke sells his land speeder, the droids hide from stormtroopers, and Han has a run-in with...
Right here, Jabba.
Do my eyes deceive me? Is that a Jabba the Hutt that I just saw? Is that a Jabba the Hutt? I think... I'm not even joking, guys. That's disgusting. Oh no, obvious CGI, I can't take it. Now, I know that this is the 1997 re-release of the original edit, and this was previously not in the movie, but maybe it's because Jabba the Hutt looks like this. George Lucas, are you sober? Well, after that disgusting sight, and the gang escaping from Imperial complications, Leia's brought to General Tarkin and she randomly has a British accent.
Governor Tarkin, I should have expected to find you holding Vader's leash. I recognized your foul stench when I was brought on board.
Why'd you say it like that? I don't know. Why has the past hour happened? I don't know. Anyway, he pressures her into telling her where the rebel base is, in which she says that it's on Tatooine. But Tarkin decides to blow up Alderaan anyways because evil. Back on the Millennium Falcon, Luke's lightsaber randomly turns green for a second and he starts to practice using the laser sword.
Remember, a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him.
You mean it controls your actions?
Partially, but it also obeys your commands.
Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
You don't believe in the Force, do you?
Kid, I've flown from one side of this galaxy to the other. I've seen a lot of strange stuff, but I've never seen anything to make me believe there's one all-powerful force controlling everything.
Is that social commentary in my space movie? Is that social justice warrior conversation I see? Okay, Star Wars, have your stupid random scenes that make no sense, have your whiny protagonists, have your obvious terrible CGI, but do not have social commentary in the space movies. I'm here for lightsaber fights, not a religious fight between Luke and Han. So finally, after juggling these plots for an hour, the gang comes across the Death Star, and the Empire draws them in with a tractor beam. After the gang hides from Imperial soldiers and are undetected, Han and Luke disguise themselves as stormtroopers and they fight their way to the control room to find out how to disable the tractor beam. Obi-Wan then leaves to disable the beam and Luke and Han argue about whether or not to go do something worthwhile or just stay where they are.
Where did you dig up that old fossil? Ben is a great man.
Yes, a great man you've known for no more than an hour. R2 then beeps and boops some stuff about the whereabouts of Princess Leia and how she'll be executed. Luke's sexual drive for Leia kicks in and says that they have to go save her.
No. We've got to do something. What are you talking about?
The droids belong to her. She's the one in the message. We gotta help her.
Now look, don't get any funny ideas. The old man wants us to wait right here.
Han, you were literally just saying that you need to go do something other than sit still? I don't understand.
Executor, look, a few minutes ago you said you didn't want to just wait here to be captured. Now all you want to do is stay?
Luke, you're starting to make some sense right now, you know? Never mind. Luke begins to persuade Han to save Leia by appealing to his financial drive, saying that Leia is rich and can give Han lots of loot.
Listen, if you were to rescue her, the reward would be...
What?
Well, more wealth than you can imagine.
Hey, Luke, there, you might want to back off there. That's not your money to sell out, you know? You just gotta back off. That's Leia's money! Han agrees to go save her, so they make their way through the space station. They finally save the princess, but are soon cut off by stormtroopers. The gang is sort of in a bind, and here we see our first glimpse of feminism. See, ladies and gentlemen, here's some social commentary for you. You see, it's very simple. Obviously, George Lucas was a huge feminist, making Leia wear no bra while wearing this dress. It was very progressive of him, as women today are opposed to bras. Anyways, Leia's character could have worked as a prince as well, but instead, to make Han and Luke and all men ever look dumb, they write this character as a female. Han even calls her, quote-unquote, sweetheart, which represents men who use that term derogatorily nowadays. But Leia is a strong, independent woman and saves herself and pieces of cisgendered white males from danger. It was truly progressive of George Lucas to have both an atheist and a feminist in the same movie. Where's my lightsaber fight? Anyway, Leia leads him to a trash compactor, where there's this awkward scene of Luke being pulled into the garbage water by a monster. There's no music. There's not a whole lot of development in the characters or the story. I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling at the moment. I'm not really sure why this scene was shown. Luke tries to call C-3PO for help, but he's too busy being an incompetent robot. I repeat, an incompetent robot to listen to him. R2-D2 finally shuts off the trash compactor, and that's the end of that. Again, not completely sure why this scene exists, apart from comedic purposes, I guess, showing how dumb C-3PO is, and I guess random dramatic tension. Meanwhile, in a scene that actually progresses the plot, Obi-Wan shuts off the tractor beam. Of course, you wouldn't know that because they changed the label for tractor beam to some random space language. Back with the gang, Han acts like a sexist piece of garbage.
And just to avoid any more female advice, we gotta be able to get out of here. Well, let's get moving.
Leia, like the powerful woman she is, tells them to take orders from her. Destroying the patriarchy, just like that, Leia, aren't you? Of course, Han says that he only takes order from himself, and my respect for him as a human being lowers even more than it already has. But I gotta cut him some slack. Leia just met these guys, and she's already trying to order them around. Then again, Han is an incompetent narcissist. So, in conclusion, none of them deserve to be in charge, and they should really just let Chewie order them around. I feel like that would be a much more interesting movie. The gang begins to battle some stormtroopers through some corridors. Luke and Leia split away from Han, and they end up at a dead end on a bridge. Luke stupidly shoots the control module that would have saved them, and now they are stuck. And okay, so here lies the literal most what the heck plot convenience that I've ever seen in my entire life. Luke has a grappling hook. This is never mentioned beforehand. He just has it. Why does he have a grappling hook? Oh, I'm sorry. How could I forget that everyone carried around grappling hooks in the late 70s? How could I forget? I gotta stop yelling. My lungs are not gonna be able to work after this video. Wait. Is this it? Is this... After an hour and a half of horribly cut double plots, whiny Luke Skywalkers and pointless scenes, is this it? A lightsaber duel? Yes it is. And it's so underwhelming. Okay, fine. I'm used to it at this point, you know? Obi-Wan dies, and who cares? I mean, I guess Luke does. We only knew him for an hour, but that's fine. Let's just move the plot forward, please. I don't even care they escaped. I hate them all. I don't even care that Obi-Wan talks to Luke somehow. I don't even care anymore. I'm numb. I don't even care that I'm watching a 6 StarCraft fight right now. I can't feel anymore. I'm pinching myself. I'll even hit myself. And I feel that.
You know, sometimes I amaze even myself.
You know, Han, you've cemented my hatred for you more than you will ever know. Leia leaves and Luke and Han have some bro talk.
I don't know. What do you think? You think a princess and a guy like me?
No.
Luke, you should really tone down your sex drive for Leia. I'm telling you now, it doesn't work out well for you. And Han, you're a selfish piece of garbage, and I hope you get frozen to death, never to be seen again. So the group makes their way to the Rebel base, where they discover a weakness in the Death Star. Apparently, all it takes is one shot into a very small exhaust port to take down the massive galactic weapon. So, some X-Wing pilots, including Luke, go to exploit this weakness. This galactic dogfight happens while Obi-Wan continues to talk to Luke from another realm. Luke goes on strong as he watches all of his X-Wing pilot friends die. Luke is the final pilot to survive. He is literally the Rebels' final hope. He has 3 Imperial ships, including Darth Vader, behind him, shooting at him. The Death Star is about to fire at the base, and here comes Han Solo, shooting at the Imperial ships. I still hope he dies, but, you know, what a redemption. It's actually kind of nice. And because Obi-Wan spoke to Luke from another realm for some reason, Luke lands the shot in the exhaust port and saves the day. So, our heroes are rewarded with a Medal of Honor, and everyone just forgets about the 10 pilots that died that day, but who cares? They saved the day. And that was Star Wars: A New Hope. What did I think? Well, you heard what I thought at the very beginning. Do I need to remind you? It's the worst ever. It's bad. Throughout this movie, you have scenes that serve no purpose to the plot, you have characters that are horribly unlikable, and social commentary that makes you just hate social justice warriors. And because of that, I hate this movie and all it stands for. It can't possibly get any worse.
Now, the creators of the biggest smash hit of all time bring you the next episode in the Star Wars saga, The Empire Strikes Back.